With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. And don't forget to check out the Swag Cave, done by our good friends at Resonance Branding Company. The link to that Swag Cave is in the podcast description. We got a fun episode coming up here. We're going to be talking with a good friend of ours, Travis Austad, a.k.a. Auggie. I'll explain that here in just a couple minutes here, but he is doing some fantastic work with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Northwestern, Wisconsin. But I first got to know Auggie from the world of slow pitch softball, from softball. And I know a lot of you listening right now are players at various levels, so you're going to really enjoy this conversation, because if there's a guy who is incredibly passionate about something, or incredibly passionate about a particular sport, it's Auggie when it comes to slow pitch softball. And one of the things I want to start to highlight more of that passion from athletes, from other people. I want to start to highlight their passion for sports, and I just thought this would be a great segue, or a great first episode leading into that, to highlight those who are very, very passionate with what they do. So, without further ado, this is going to be weird calling him by this name, because I usually refer to you as Auggie all the time. But Travis yep. Austad. Did I pronounce the last name right?
You did.
Okay, I was. As soon as I said it, I'm like, I better double check, because I don't know if I've ever called you by your first name.
It's been a while.
But Travis joining me here in studio because, first of all, we're going to talk about some of the great things he's doing with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Northwest Wisconsin, but also probably one of the most passionate people that I know when it comes to sports, and I want to get to know his story a little bit back there too. But first of all, thanks for coming in. I know you're really busy. You got your golf outing coming up this weekend, too, so we appreciate you taking some time to stop by, man.
I love to be here, Dan. You are what I wake up to in the morning on the radio, so I'm just ecstatic and excited to be here.
Well, I appreciate that, buddy. So first, how big of a transition was it? Because you were always Boys and Girls Club for the longest time, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. And now you're Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Northwestern, Wisconsin. Was that a little bit of a transition period for you?
It was, because both organizations get confused with one another. Mm-hmm. So I've seen both sides, right? Like I've been on the Boys and Girls Club side where, you're Big Brothers, Big Sisters. No, we're Boys and Girls Club. Now on the Big Brothers, Big Sisters side, you're Boys and Girls Club, because people always knew me as the Boys and Girls Club. So it's been a challenge to get people to change the way they think.
Right.
Both organizations, while they do great things, it's still different in what they do. The missions are fairly similar, but Big Brothers, Big Sisters is focused solely on one-on-one mentoring. Boys and Girls Club is more, group type of atmosphere. So it's been a challenge, but I think people are starting to buy into the awareness piece of what we're trying to do and how we decipher between both organizations.
Right. Was it always something, because, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, for as long as I knew you, you've always been involved in in Boys or Girls or Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Was this something you knew you wanted to do? It's that going back to college or high school days. Was this...
Let me tell you my why
of
why I got into it. My father passed away when I was 8. My mother was working 4 jobs, trying to make ends meet. I was constantly with my sister. I, then met some friends in the local community I was living in. We were out on the town not getting into trouble, riding our bikes, doing, the typical boy stuff when you're little. So I could have definitely benefited from whether it be a Boys and Girls Club or in this case a big brother, big sister, a one-on-one mentor to kind of show me the way. So as I got older, I kind of bought into that. Like I didn't have that as a kid. So I want to make sure the kids in the community that I represent have that opportunity and know those opportunities exist, because as a kid, I didn't know they existed. So that's been kind of my mission and my goal and my driving force, is making sure that as many kids know that they have resources out there that I didn't have. Now, I'd like to think that I turned out okay, right?
Yeah.
But there's still an opportunity out there, and those kids that don't know we exist, and I was that kid. So being able to share the word and be a part of that and share the impact that we create through our one-on-one mentoring, it's an awesome experience, and that's what keeps me going.
There's that passion kind of coming
through
again, right?
100%. Yeah.
That's so cool. So, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or excuse me, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. See, now I'm getting mixed up a little bit here. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Northwestern, Wisconsin. What would you say is maybe the biggest, or maybe not the biggest, but misconception about Big Brothers, Big Sisters?
The biggest misconception that a lot of nonprofits see, for that matter, is that we're just for the kids that have troubles. We're for all kids. We serve those that, maybe on the outside doesn't show any issues or problems, whether that's depression, anxiety, or slow to warm up. Some of our kids that we serve, they just need that one-on-one mentoring because their parents are working, kind of like my parents are working, double jobs, barely home, so they need that social interaction with other folks. And that's the biggest misconception, is that, we're just for the less fortunate or the at-risk youth.
Right.
We're serving whoever wants to be a part of our program, and that's the biggest misconception we often hear.
And I'm glad to hear you say that, too, because, when you tell your story there, too, I grew up without a dad, too, so, single parents, only child, too, on top of that. And I completely agree with you. If I would have known, or if there was opportunities like that, it's a what if.
Right.
What if situation there. Again, like you, I think I turned out okay.
Yeah, right.
Still, I still probably would have, that would have helped me out so much as a kid to have programs like that. So now with what in your current role, leading Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and if you don't follow the Facebook page, because there's some powerful stories, especially on your Wednesdays when you post some of those stories about, is it still littles? Do we call them the littles over there? About, littles looking for bigs. And they're powerful stories. And I think what's really cool about that is that, first of all, you try to match up those littles with bigs with the same interests and or complementary personalities over there too. So, but we need some more bigs, right? We need some more volunteers to help out being that big brother and big sister out there. What's the easiest way for people to go about that if they're interested in finding out more info or applying to potentially be a volunteer?
Stop on down to our office or go to our website at www.bbbsnw.org.
You passed the test, right?
I did. I had to think about it real quick just to make sure I got them all right. You're hitting on a little bit of our Wednesday post. Those are highlighting our waiting list kids. There's currently over 80 kids on our waiting list. So you can tell that there's a need based on that number alone.
Right.
It's just we need more volunteers. We need more bigs to help complement those, because some of those kids will age out of the program because they've been on that waiting list for so long. And they, whether it's 2 years, whether it's 3 years, you can tell there's a need. It's a huge need. And when our kids age out without getting matched, we need more help. We need more volunteers to help alleviate some of that stress that, we're carrying a wait list. And while it's healthy to carry some on the wait list, we still need more volunteers.
Right. And again, I mean, you match up with similar personalities or interests. So, I mean, if you like going fishing and there's a youngster that likes to go fishing, I mean, I'm just thinking of the positive influence you could have on that child's life. Even because I think on your website too, it says even if it's just like an hour a week or something like that, an hour a week to make a difference in a kid's life. And you think about the positive influence and just how different of an outlook that kid might have too.
Right.
And think about those memories as they get older.
You know, it's funny, you know, I'm 43 years old, and I still remember back going fishing with my grandfather, you know, and I could tell you every little detail that happened during that time, you know, on the boat, catching, you know, big bass or falling into the, you know, water when my grandpa was going too fast. But you know, those are the memories that you recollect later in life, and you kind of reminisce on them, and having that opportunity and seeing those kids have that opportunity, you know, whether it's their first time fishing and you're doing it with a mentor, you know, like it not only impacts that child, but it also impacts that volunteer. So you feel good about yourself, you know, you're changing a life. You know, you're giving an opportunity they might not have had otherwise.
Right.
So the impact goes both ways on our volunteers and our bigs and our littles as well.
Right. Even, I mean, I'm thinking too, like maybe a little boy just, you know, wants to play catch. You know, something like that where, I mean, I remember as a kid, I'd play basketball myself. We didn't have a basketball hoop, but I'd have to use a sidewalk block. You know, just like stories like that. I'm like, man, to be able to help a kid just go to the park and shoot hoops or something like that, and the difference that it would make for somebody out there. So would you say, you know, biggest need here too, and take bigs for everyone, but for especially boys, right?
Yes.
So you're looking for a lot of mentors for the boys, it sounds like right now.
Yes, that is a definite huge need. We definitely, you know, need more volunteers in general, but the male population, the male volunteers, if there's male volunteers out there, we want you. There are a tremendous amount of males on our waiting list looking for that big brother. And like I said, we want females as well, but we are definitely looking for more male mentors.
All right. So if you are listening and you can dedicate some time, again, just an hour a week or so, and can they do more too? You know, I know we said an hour. Could they dedicate if it works out schedule-wise?
100%. We're a little bit flexible as far as, you know, say that 1 week your hour is filled up with work or you have something going on. You know, we typically say 1 hour a week for 1 year or 4 hours a month.
Okay.
And however that breaks down is kind of up to your schedule.
Gotcha.
You know, maybe you start with 1 hour a week and then something comes up, then you have all the flexibility in the world for that. So we're trying to meet you halfway with your schedule.
Right.
And be as accommodating as possible.
Right. What's when you see, you know, I know you're kind of still newish in your role, but
Newish.
What's, I mean, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but when you see the impact that some of these people have with these kids, I mean, how much does that mean to you when you see these connections and these mentors and these positive influences coming through?
That's why I've been doing nonprofit work for as long as I've been doing it. This is my 16th year in the nonprofit world. It keeps me going every single day, and knowing that we're creating those impacts one match at a time is an amazing feeling. I don't know, you know, when it's time to retire, I don't know that I would want to retire because I love doing what I do so much, and that impact alone is my driving force each and every day.
That's well said, man. So all right, before I let you go here, we got to talk some softball and some
Bring it on
here too. So again, I kind of led off by saying if you are on the short list of some of the most passionate people that I know, you know, when it comes to sports and such. And I mean, I was nowhere near the talent level of you. I mean, you've gone around the country and played. So first is first, how did you get involved in softball? What was it that drew you to that first?
I played baseball 4 years of high school, was a first-team all-conference baseball player, and I was looking to stay competitive. Truth be told, I got my start in the church league.
Yeah.
My senior year of high school, we developed a church league, to play against other churches in the community, and I loved it. I was looking for it, and then, based upon my play, I jumped onto other teams, and that's where I got my start. Like you said, I've traveled a lot of places. Been to Florida probably 15 years, of playing softball. So I've got to travel a lot of places, but my start was in the church leagues. That was it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of, and I remember as a kid, did you as a kid like watch softball tournaments grow, because I remember that as a kid, like going to the fairs or something like that.
Yeah. I'll be honest. One of the most intimidating things that I've ever done on the softball diamond was umpire as a freshman in high school.
You're a braver man.
Oh yeah, and this is back when softball was booming in all the communities, right? Like unlimited home runs. Everyone was talented. Your local barber was your pitcher, right? And all the communities were represented. They needed an umpire, and I was down the park watching, right? And then all of a sudden, like, hey, our umpire couldn't show up. Could you do it? And I never ran so much in my life, trying to get to first, trying to get to second, trying to get to third, trying to be perfect in umpiring that game, because that I didn't want to hear from the older people in the community like, oh, he did a terrible job, or never going to ask him again, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, every weekend there was something going on in the park. You go to other communities, the softball diamond lights were always on. Now that has subsided a little bit because the game is dying. People are worried about in today's game, like, who are they playing? Yeah. Do they have a chance to win? If they don't have a chance to win, they're not going to enter the tournament. And I've been fortunate enough to be on a lot of those really, really good squads where we're in the tournament, so teams are dropping out. But it wasn't always the case. I had to start somewhere. I wanted to play those other teams as type of a measuring stick, right? Like, if we got blown out, great. Now we know what we need to work on. But just seeing where the game was compared to where it is now completely changed.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Casey Trucking, Charlotte Croplands, and all those
my
guys.
Gosh. Yes. You're bringing back memories of old squads I've been on. Casey Trucking was one of the best in the area, or if not the state.
Yeah.
And then we went to the conference USSSA, where we're traveling the nation, going to Nashville, going to Florida, going to Michigan, going to Illinois, you name it, we've been there. That was by far the best squad I've ever been on, because you look at the names that were on that team, they're still playing.
Yeah.
Some, even mid-50s, still playing at a high level. But when I first started with them, I was still in college, and we were traveling the country, and I was trying to do it on a college, wallet that didn't have a lot of money in it, right? But I made it work, and I did it for 7 years, traveling the country, playing at the highest level possible, and it was a great experience. And what springboarded my latter years of my career is just like, man, having that opportunity to step on a softball field with some of the talent that I played with and still play with. A lot of these young guys are still heavily talented. They still have the same passion, and I still do too. Even at 43, I don't want to retire. I want to play till I'm 90. My wife probably will not let that happen, but we'll see how it goes.
You're going to be the next Ricky, remember?
Oh, yeah. Like, it's just something, that I'm extremely passionate about. These months, August and September, are months I don't look forward to, because your season's almost done. Your leagues are starting to wrap up. There is fall ball now, but your tournaments are starting to become scarce. So then you worry about the off season, and it's not just sitting on the couch watching football. It's like we're doing tee work. We're, keeping our hands, strong and working out and doing all those things and just keeping things together so then when you hit the next season, you're not far behind.
Right. And I mean, I remember in college, and that's kind of like where I was like, okay, church league, that's where it started in that. But I remember Softball 360, watching it, I think it was FS1 or Fox Sports, and gosh, the message boards. I mean, everybody knew who each other was, I think, by their nicknames on there. And that. So, I mean, but then it was like the camaraderie. I mean, it didn't, whatever tournament, it is like you knew everybody every weekend that was going. That's what I miss the most, I think, is just running into everybody every weekend.
I do run my own softball page as well. I grew up in the Softball 360 and some of the videos of the best players in the country, I wanted to be those people. And then playing against them in the conference, that was something that, oh my gosh, I seen you on TV and you have a bat named after you.
Jeff Hall or
something. Case in point right there. By the way, he's a great gentleman.
Is he?
Yes, he is. Biggest Southern accent you'll ever hear. But he's from North Carolina, and I lived in Carolina for a year with my wife. And anyway, like it was amazing to see those folks and see them on Softball 360, hear about them, and then go play against them.
Yeah.
It's a different league with those folks on the field. It brought out our best. We beat some of those squads as well, which is, a bunch of guys from Eau Claire, Chippewa, Cadott, Lublin. You're talking about the Croplands, right? Those beating teams like that with our local team like KC Trucking was an amazing feeling.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you talk to them after that, they're upset, but they're probably the most down-to-earth people you'll ever talk to because they're ambassadors of the game.
Right.
Like, they want to see that grow. And being able to talk to them and talk softball in general or life or whatever it is, like, that's what, you're talking about with the camaraderie and things like that. And softball is a big family. I've been fortunate enough to play it for, I think this is my 25th year or 26th. They just kind of go together after a while. But there's not a diamond that I can't go to where I don't know at least 75% of those folks.
That's so cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And as I get older, you see some of the young talent, and then the teams that I'm on now, we have some of those young talented players too, and guys that have been around the block a lot, and you don't see a lot of people like me anymore, like still giving it, still playing, 20-plus years in the game. The game is dying, and it's unfortunate, and I hope 10 years from now we can see a 360-degree change where some of the younger folks are starting to play. Some of the younger folks are starting to understand that it doesn't matter which team is in the tournament. We want to use you as a measuring stick. We want to play you. And if we get beat, we get beat. If we don't and we beat you, that's something we get to talk about all year, right? Like that's what people are failing to understand is it doesn't matter. We put our pants on the same way. We put our shirts on the same way. We lace them up the same way. We're human, right? Sometimes the most talented teams don't win. It's all about how you play together. And how you mesh together is what's going to win you some of those games.
You're saying that, and I instantly remember it was when we first started off, maybe our second year or something like that. And I was at the time too where Haggers, and those guys were out there, and we had to play them Sunday morning in Owen Withy, and we're like, we had that mindset, but we beat them. Yeah, they might have been a little hungover, but we beat them. But we were so pumped up as kids. It was like, okay, now we want to recapture that kind of feeling. We knew who they were. We knew they were better than us, but somehow it was just our morning that and it was kind of an addiction after that. Right. And that's like, okay, then that's what kept us wanting to keep playing and keep going and that sort of stuff. So absolutely, I know exactly what you're talking about right there. And, you mentioned the sports dying. I mean, that's what's kind of sad to see leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember as a kid in Medford at JC Field, we had 2 fields going on with leagues. They don't have a league anymore.
Right.
And to see that, and it's just like, this past weekend I was at a baby shower and we were reminiscing about unlimited arc tournaments,
my gosh.
North of Holcomb,
Yep.
at these old country bars and it's like you just don't see that stuff anymore. We were taught Dusty Netek stories, and felt like he broke my hand one time trying to catch a line drive from him.
That guy could hit it a country mile.
Yeah, and he still can.
Oh yeah, yes he can.
He probably can't run anymore with his knee, but oh my God, what a bruiser.
Yeah.
But it's those stories, and it's like, gosh, I hope they can continue to go on.
Right.
Like you said, those youngsters, and that's where, I'll say their name, the Croplins, all their kids are playing now. It's kind of like
and they're good.
And they're good.
And they're real good.
Yeah, next gen or whatever they're called.
Yep.
It's like, and I just hope kids, continue to do that because, I remember as a kid going to see family play, and then it's like when I got to that age, I'm like, you know what? I remember watching that. I kind of want to try it.
Right.
And, playing tournaments, we weren't the greatest, but we had fun.
Oh, yeah.
And just going up against these different teams all the time.
You talk about some of the leagues that are no longer in existence. Altoona is a perfect example. That used to be by far the best league around the state. Casey Trucking, K&M Landscaping, Critters Dreams. You go down the line. Budweiser, the old Budweiser guys. They were phenomenal.
Corn Nuts.
Yes, even the Corn Nuts.
Yep.
Like I remember numerous times, watching the Corn Nuts play, and they would surprise you. It was awesome, and that's you don't see that anymore.
No.
Like Altoona doesn't even. I don't think they have a league because I would play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday just in Altoona, and then whatever tournament that I was going to.
Yep.
But now it's not there, and it's too bad. It's unfortunate.
Right.
Those were the best leagues by far.
Yeah, I remember the one time I got to play with you was Altoona League.
Yep.
It was because my wife's Uncle Tim.
Yep.
It was like, I'll be honest, I was a little intimidated because I'm like, okay, I know all of you guys.
Yeah, right.
And you've beaten me all the time. And but it was so fun.
Oh, yeah.
It was still so fun, and it's something I'll still remember, that it was just cool to kind of share a field with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, games were 35-34 in the third inning, and time limit was called in a league game. And I'm like, man, just imagine if we had to finish this out. But it was a good mix of guys, those teams that you're talking about with you and I, and it was fun.
Yeah.
Like it was a complete blast. I was still playing outfield at that time, and I still can do it. But like the balls, were flying all over the diamond. People making plays. We were hitting. I think we won that league like 2 or 3 years in a row with the squad that we had. It
was a good way for everybody, just because usually tournament teams are different, right?
Oh yeah,
so everybody got to play together.
So it was a mixture of a multitude of tournament teams that we all got together and played league together, and it was awesome. Like it was laid back, it was relaxed, it was still competitive to a point because you didn't want to lose.
Yep.
And ultimately, you look back on it, we were playing for a T-shirt.
Right.
That was it. That was what you won if you won the league. We were playing for a T-shirt, and somehow that was a driving force that we wanted to get that T-shirt.
It's like we were back in college in intramurals.
I know. Right. You were 100% accurate with that one.
I just, you mentioned Altoona. That's the one thing. I mean, I remember we were in college. I think the first, we're going to try it, was the Mayhem in early June.
Yep.
Playing that. And I always loved, one of my favorite one was Cinder City Days. I mean, that thing was packed all the time, playing that. And to not see those, around anymore.
Right.
It just kind of breaks your heart a little bit.
Mayhem is not dead yet because I've ran that for 20 plus years. And I needed a little bit of a break. Some of the help has dwindled. We had one of the umpires who was a part of that for numerous years. He passed away. So I needed a break from it. 20 plus years of doing the same thing over and over again at the same tournament. And I'll be honest, like I wanted the best teams from Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan if they'd come, and Wisconsin.
Yep.
And I was able to get that with a lot of those teams. And in the latter years of that tournament, we were still seeing great teams, but it wasn't the caliber of what we were used to. So it's not dead yet. I just needed some time to kind of recalibrate and get things in my life in order. And then my hope is by next year we can bring that back.
Well, you need any help, you let us know.
100%.
So, I just remember, was it Shannon that
yes,
a while back?
Yes. He, Mr. Robinson,
yes.
Shannon Robinson, that guy I played probably 15 years with, still one of my very best friends to this day. I didn't want to see that. He started it, and I was part of the inaugural Mayhem tournament. And after he retired, I wanted to keep it going. And his last year, it was either going to die or I was going to take it over. And I'm like, well, I want to see this thing because it was still at its peak. We were still seeing teams from Minnesota, the top teams in Minnesota. And I will guarantee you, when they got into the tournament, I said they're not going to win it. And they never did.
They never did?
They never did. No. We had Long Haul Bombers, which was which was an A team, come to Mayhem and go 1-2.
Really?
Yes.
I remember one time again, I think I was in college. I drove to Marshfield because I knew Long Haul was playing. And was it the MIT, I think, down over there? I'm like, because I see him on TV all the time.
Yep.
So, when you say Long Haul, I was like, oh, no, I did not know they went 1-2.
Yeah, they went 1-2 and never came back again.
Really?
Yep. They're like, oh, why are you letting them in there? I'm like, watch and see.
Different style, or what was? How did you know that?
It's just knowing the competition that was in the tournament. Anybody could beat anybody at any given time, and we split it in the upper where all the top teams wanted to be, and then the more recreational teams in the lower.
Yep.
And that upper was a gauntlet of great teams. One team that comes to mind in particular is the Vault out of Hudson. Yeah. In my latter years and in their latter years, I was fortunate to play with. You go down that lineup of hitters. We took second in the Open in the Firemen's with that squad and beat some of the top teams around. Traveling to the Firemen's to go play in Minnesota. That lineup was full of 700, 750, 800 hitters that are all tough outs. I'm like, you see some of the local talent that we have here in Wisconsin, I would put a lot of that local talent against some of the top teams that you see in other tournaments as well. And just knowing that Long Haul is coming here with that mindset is we're Long Haul, no one's going to beat us. And then seeing some of the teams that were in that tournament when they showed up, I'm like, they're not going to win it. They're going to be surprised. And sure enough, they were.
Peterlick and all that.
Oh, my God. Johnny, well, and Chris, too. Like, phenomenal athletes. John had a great River Falls career, football, and I guarantee you he could still run a 4.3 if he wanted to.
Jeez.
I guarantee if John is listening to this, he would appreciate that. But he's probably the most humble guy on the field. Both of them. Yeah. Doesn't say anything. He's competitive, but he just lets his game do the talking.
Right.
And I appreciate that out of him the most.
Absolutely. This is going to be a hard question. But is there a tournament or a tournament that stands out or a favorite place to play for you that you've been to? Or a certain year maybe that kind of really stands out to you?
Yeah. The Conference U-Trip Worlds was probably my favorite place. That was down in the Disney complex. They don't play that. They built a complex called Space City.
Okay.
But the Disney Wide World of Sports, there was 100 teams just in, our classes, and then you go down the lines of C had like 200. So there was, 16, 17 fields of straight competitive softball playing for a World Series title. And being in that atmosphere was something that I looked forward to the most. I played conference level for 7 years. Some of the funnest and best memories of my career. But those were the tournaments I looked forward to the most. Like the local flavor tournaments were awesome, but the game was slower because you played in that fast-paced mentality and games of the conference. The conference was a different animal. And some of the local kids now, I only wish for them to be able to get to that level and play and see what it's about, because you won't turn back after you be at that level and see the athletes. There's not an easy out in any lineup. Anybody can beat anybody. But that tournament in particular was one that I still watch. It's on YouTube now, and it's on some of the softball channels. I will tune in to every single time, that they're on.
I remember watching that. You said that the border one with USA and Canada, is that always around July 4th or something like that? 'Cause that was on ESPN, wasn't it? So over there all the time. Just a couple more questions. There's one memory I have of you, and you don't know this, but there's one memory I have of you. You were coming back. You were back from North Carolina. I think you were sleeping on C-Bomb's couch or something like that. It's when you first got back. Or something like that.
It was actually Mike Hetzler.
Oh, okay.
But you got the story right.
Okay. Because it was bracket tournament, and I remember watching a game. And you did like a swinging bunt or something like that. And I think it was like an inside the Parker almost. And I remember someone saying, well, that's that North Carolina ball coming through.
It's true.
And that was my question is, different states, is there different style? Have you noticed different styles like, Minnesota, North Carolina, Wisconsin, whatever? Is there a different style?
Oh, 100%. Like North Carolina, the swing you're talking about, I learned it down there. And, when I come back up here and bring that flavor here, I would often hear, you have $300 in your hand, use it, Yeah. And I'm like, well, my third baseman is playing off the line. All I got to do is touch it and hit it down that line, and I'm standing on second. So I don't care what it looks like. I've already beaten you because you're worried about like what I'm going to do and whether it doesn't look pretty or whatever, because, in North Carolina, people did that swing, but you knew it was coming, and then they would change their swing as the pitch is in the air and hit a missile over your head. It's just a different ball game that opened my eyes to different ways of getting on base. I lived on the third base line for 3 years. Now I can't even go to a tournament where people aren't waiting for that swing. So I've lost a little bit of that. But when I go to a tournament and I'm playing against a team that don't know who I am, they're playing off the line. And I'm like, well, there's a hit. You can kind of pick and choose where you want to go. Now it's left center gap. Your middle guy is playing, pull, and your third baseman is playing on that line. Your shortstop's on an island, so then you can drive a semi-trailer through that left center gap. It's science, right? Like, you don't want to. Why are you hitting to in a shift where they're vulnerable in other areas of the field? So you have to see it. Now people move on the pitch, and you know what they're going to do because you've kind of seen it all. But North Carolina was definitely an eye-opening experience for me. Like, I'm like, what did you just do? And then I'm like, well, show me how to do it. And then I remember, that tournament in particular, like, people hated it. Yeah,
because I could picture the team. Yeah. They were wearing black pants and that, and I can't remember the name. But, yeah, they were not happy.
No, they were not. You just did what? I'm like, I'm standing on second. What's the problem? Like, I don't understand, but different flavor. It takes a while for people to adjust to the change in the game or a change in the swing. And people don't like change. I brought that here. People hated it. But I'm like, I'm on base. I've got a hit. You have to worry about the next hitter now, but you're still worried about what I just did.
Right.
Yep. But people hated it for a long time, and they probably still will. But it's a completely different animal when some of the Wisconsin teams go over to play in Minnesota. It's different everywhere. People have different swings. People, you don't know where these guys are hitting compared to now. Everyone knows where everyone's, where they want to go with it, right?
Right.
But it's different all over. And it's an eye-opener each time you go there, especially North Carolina. It's a different game down south, for sure. Real quick, we played in a national title game like 4 years ago. We were playing against a team from down south in Alabama. We were playing in Missouri. Haven't seen that swing in years, besides me. And then we go and play these guys, and these guys are doing that exact same swing. And I'm like just reminiscing of like, oh my gosh, thank you for, and it's hard to defend. If you hit it right, you can't defend it. Yep. You're already getting a hit. But seeing that and then seeing some of my teammates during that time see that swing for the first time, it's like, well, what did he just do? But yeah, I mean, just wanted to share that one too. Is like, it's different all over. You just don't know.
Yeah. ASA, NSA, or U-Trip? Which one are you a bigger fan of?
U-Trip, 100%. They can do pump fakes and tricks and things like that. ASA around here, when people say like 6'10", it's actually 6'14" or 5.5 and 15. It depends tournament by tournament. In my opinion, Wisconsin is light years behind where other states are in the ASA game. NSA is similar to U-Trip, except without the tricks and things like that. I do love NSA, but U-Trip is the way to go. I love that game. It's much faster. The talent is the same in any league that you go, but ASA in Wisconsin is completely different anywhere you go. The height limits, umpires around here love to push that limit. And umpires elsewhere, you see it even close to 10 feet, you're calling it illegal, right? In U-Trip, it's just a different game. There's more strategy, more hitting, more defense, better pitching, which ultimately that's where some of the best players are and is in the U-Trip game. Not saying anything about ASA or NSA, but some of the best people that are still playing this game today that you see on the videos or the TV are playing U-Trip. They're not playing anything else.
Right. It's been a while, but I remember one of the, and to kind of wrap it up, like when it came to the state tournament, there was always issues about, the rules and all that. And I don't know if Disher's still doing, over in Stevens Point, if he's still working over there. But, is it still kind of the same issues with state ASA in Wisconsin? Has it gotten better, do you think? Or
it has. But umpires are hard to come by.
Yeah.
Each umpire is going to have a different feel for the height limits and different feel for the game in general. Matt is doing a great job of changing the culture, if you will. For a long time, you're talking about that, and it was a problem then. Matt Disher came in this year as the state commissioner, and is trying to change some of that, culture, if you will, to change it for the better.
Yep.
He's got the passion and drive for it. State just wrapped up over the weekend. And, it's umpire by umpire. It's still going to be different.
Right.
Unless you have the same umpire, just umpire one field,
Yep.
There's no changing that. But state, the state tournament is in a good place. They're trying new things. They're changing the date. It used to be in Marshfield,
right? Yep.
Where there were 60 plus teams, vying for a state title in numerous classes, and now it's probably 25 between three classes, C, D, and E.
Yep.
But once people get between those lines, they forget about all that stuff. It's something to debate before the tournament and after the tournament, but once people start to play it, they don't care about any of that stuff.
Right.
And Matt's doing, like I said, Matt's doing a great job of changing that culture, changing that language, and getting people bought into the state tournament, because it doesn't mean much now compared to what it did in years past. Like, oh, we have to go to state if we want to play nationals. That's
It was
national
a qualifier.
rule. Yeah. And teams view it like that. You know, oh, I won a state tournament. It's not a big deal. You know, I got 9 state titles, you know, and I remember all 9 of them because they were, you know, early in my career for a lot of them. But teams use the state tournament to get to nationals because of that requirement. So then it takes away some of that meaning of, oh, I won a state title. Great. But now let's get to nationals. Let's, you know, like there's some excitement there, but it doesn't mean the same.
Right.
And hopefully Matt can change that narrative, because if he can do that, other teams are going to buy into that. Other teams are going to want that feeling.
Yep.
But like I said, it's not the same. It is not the same.
Yeah. Dude, we could probably go on for
probably.
A lot longer.
Yes, we brought in some old school names that I definitely appreciate. But I could talk this all day long, and I don't want to take up too much of your time.
But we'll have to do this again. And kind of pick up where we left off. But Auggie, you're doing some great things with Big Brothers Big Sisters, Northwest Wisconsin. I know it's probably a thankless job too, but thank you for everything you do for the community with that too, and then. Plus, thanks for going down memory lane.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate
a
that.
Bit here.
Yep.
So we're definitely going to get you back on.
Okay.
But first, why were you a North Carolina Tar Heel fan? Where'd that come from? Jordan?
Yes.
Okay.
He started it. But every sports team that has come out of that program has been good. So it's not just basketball.
Yeah.
It's the lacrosse team.
Yep.
Like, they're always good. It's the girls basketball team. They're always good. It's the men's basketball team, which I love. That's my first love. So when the Badgers played North Carolina Tar Heels, I was torn, but ultimately the Badgers won, but I was cheering for North Carolina.
Well, I'll admit this was 2005 when they won a national championship.
Yes. Yep.
It was Badgers, North Carolina in the Elite Eight.
Mm-hmm.
I was going for North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'll admit it. So
no, it's been a lifelong love affair with the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
And we'll still be there. Every Christmas, my wife gets me Tar Heel gear, and I'm like a little kid, you know, like, oh my gosh, yes, a new Tar Heel shirt.
That's awesome. Well, give Leah our best too.
Yep. Oh, I will do.
Awesome. Augie, appreciate it. Thanks so much, bud.
Thank you so much.
And that is going to do it for us on this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Big thanks to Augie. I can't call him Travis. I'm sorry, Augie. Big thanks to Augie for stopping by and sharing a little bit of what he does in his professional life. Fantastic stuff. And then, of course, going down to softball wire there. I know a lot of you listeners right now have played. Maybe you're still playing. So just a really fun conversation with him too. So don't forget to follow and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you could, give us a 5-star rating and a positive review so others can find the podcast. Until next time, I'm Dan Casper. We'll talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.